First of all, we appreciate you being here. It means a lot that you come spend some time with us. And the first thing we want to do is find out a little bit about Devin and Pandy. I want you to just tell us about yourself, your family, background, whatever you think's important.
Great. Hello, everyone. First, thank you, Will, for putting this together. This is great. I'm so glad to be here. I know that a lot of you are here to learn about me, and I'm sure you will as the time goes on. But I just want you to know that I'm here to learn about you as well. I don't do what you do. I almost never have. So the more that I can learn from you, the better I can represent you in Congress. So a little bit about me. My name is Devin Pandy. I was born in Belize, Central America. I am actually, my family immigrated here when I was an infant. So after I tell you a little bit about my upbringing, I hope that you will agree with me that I am the epitome of the American dream. My family came here through Mexico from Belize as immigrants, and my mom got a job in New York. We all moved to New York, and then my father joined the military, and he spent a great 20-year military career in the Army, deploying to Desert Storm and Desert Shield. And he raised us to be proud, not only to be proud of Pandy's, because you hardly ever find anyone with that name, and normally when I do, we're related, but also to be proud in our country, to be proud in the United States. And it was that pride that convinced me that I should follow in the footsteps of my father. So I joined the Army, and I retired after 21 years. I have 5 deployments to Kuwait, to Panama, which wasn't that bad, twice to Iraq and Afghanistan. So I am very proud to sit before you as someone who could have easily been a part of the DACA community if it weren't for us getting our nationalized citizenship in 1981. And I am also proud to sit in front of you as a patriot, as someone who has dedicated his life, most of his adult life and all of his younger life, not that it was my choice, to the military and to this country. So I'm very proud to tell you that. After being in the military, 5 deployments, traveling all over the world, I took a few months off after I retired, and I traveled all over the world. And not counting my military travels, I traveled on my own to 3 continents, 17 countries, 37 cities. I traveled all over the place. I wanted to get to know even more cultures than I had already had experience with in the military. And so that was one of the reasons why I traveled all over the place. And I'm also proud to tell you that of all the places that I have been around the world, all of the beautiful, fantastic places that I have been, it was my choice. It was my choice to live right here in the 9th District. And I'm proud of that, because I believe that this is a beautiful and diverse place. And it's only going to get more beautiful if we take the right steps to keep it that way. So thank you again for having me here. I hope I didn't miss anything about my background that you would like to know, but if I have, then please feel free to ask, and I'll go ahead and give the mic back to Will.
All right, thank you for that, and actually thank you for your service and your dad's service as well. When you get a chance, send that along to him. Absolutely. We appreciate that. We understand the sacrifice that the folks in the military service have to make to go and defend us, and we thank you for that very, very much. And I should have mentioned thanks to all of you that have come out to be a part of this. We appreciate your attendance here, and those of you out there in TV land, we thank you for tuning in as well. Going to move on to some agriculture issues now, because that's what we want to know about as well, besides just you as a person. We're here because we want to know your thoughts and your opinions on some of the issues that will face agriculture in your term if you were to get elected here. One of those is a little bit off, but it's the Farm Bill. It's something that's very important. We're in a district where agriculture is your #1 industry. It is the thing that makes the world go round here in the 9th Congressional District. And there are a lot of items in there that are a good place in terms of farmers. And there are some items that need some correction. We want to know your thoughts on it, where it stands, and what you would do to improve it.
Well, the first thing that I would do is what you and I were speaking about before, is I am uncertain of what input has been gained from actual farmers to create this farm bill. So the first thing that I would do, like we were discussing earlier, is I would create a 9th District Agricultural Committee. Like I told you before, I don't know what you know. I don't do what you do. Unless you've been in the military, I don't expect you to be able to tell me what an MRAP is. So I don't expect you to think that I know what you do. So I would want to first find out exactly what it is that you find most necessary to sustain yourself. And not only to sustain yourself, but to sustain the district. And we can't stop there, because you don't only sustain your district and this region, but you sustain the United States, period. So it is very important that what you find necessary, we put into that bill. So I would be very happy to hear of anything that's in that bill that you do not agree with, and anything that isn't in that bill that you would like to see added.
We'll move on to the topic of trade now, and certainly in the last 18 months, that's been a big one nationwide, and some steps have been taken. Some things have been very positive. There's been a couple of things that have affected farmers negatively when tariffs were imposed and that kind of thing. One thing we'd like to hear your opinion on is, how do we hold our trade partners accountable? How do we keep it a fair and equitable playing field in terms of trade worldwide?
That's a very good question. Now, I am not sure how you all feel about this, but it is my understanding that the tariffs can be a very good thing depending on how they are applicated and who they are applicated to, who they are applied to. And so I think that one of the things that has gotten our agricultural industry into trouble has been tariffs on China. Yes, we must be tough on any country who decides they want to steal our intellectual property, who want to act in unfair ways. Yes, it is very important. However, how we apply those tariffs and what we apply those tariffs on are very important. And I do believe that the tariffs that have been applied in the last 24 months have done more to harm our citizens than they have done to teach China a lesson. And so with those tariffs, the tariffs are actually a tax on the American people. So what that does is it adds a tax to the products coming in from China. China does not, they may see a slowing of the procurement of those items, of those products, but it's we, the citizens, who are paying those taxes. And so while like I said, I do believe that it is important that we make sure that we use the different options that we have, including tariffs, to keep those foreign nations in check, and to make sure that they are treating us just as fairly as they are treating other nations. But at the same time, those tariffs need to be applied in a scientific way, if you don't mind, so that we can make sure that while we are slowing down their profits, we are not causing our citizens to suffer.
While we're on the subject of trade, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is one that largely impacted farmers in a positive way. There was one part in particular, though, that was not necessarily so favorable, and that was that there was not something in there for anti-dumping for the fruit and vegetable farmers. And some people really make a living off those particular entities. How would you address that, correct that, if that were to be looked at in Congress?
Well, that is actually one of those things that I am not read up on. And so I would count on my 9th District Agricultural Committee to teach me, to make me smart on those things. It is very important. It's very important for you to understand that I am very good at a lot of things. The Army has taught me how to be weapons proficient, how to clear a room, how to clear a house. What they did not teach me was how to farm. They did not teach me what it's like to have to dump 100 tankers of milk. They did not teach me that. So what I need from you is for you to make me smart on those things so that I can go to Washington and make the right decisions for you.
Well, we'll move on to another topic here, and one that probably hits home with you very closely, being your background is what it is, immigration. And whether it's got a problem in the way that the things are structured right now. And ag labor relies on immigrant workers for a lot of our workforce. Farming's a hard job. You look around here and you're looking at a working farm. You're sitting in the middle of a working farm, and there's a lot of sweat that happens here. And those jobs being unpleasant are often done by immigrant workers. The H-2A program is something that is a broken system and needs some repair. We want to hear your thoughts on what you do to make it more stable.
Absolutely. So let's talk about immigration as a whole. First, I want you to know that I do not believe in open borders. I don't think that that is a good thing for this country. I believe that we should have a process by which any immigrant, no matter where they are coming from, comes into this country legally. Now, I honestly, the majority, I'll answer your question in just a second, but I want to say that the majority of non-legal immigrants to enter and stay in this country are not from the south of the border. The majority come over here on airplanes, on cruise ships, on legal visas. And then after those visas expire, they do not leave. That is a majority, how a majority of them stay here non-legally. A small percentage of that comes from the south of the border. Now, to answer your question, to absolutely shut down the H-2A process is not a good thing. To absolutely shut down I know we're not talking about this right now, but the asylum seeking process is not the right thing to do. Absolutely shutting that down does not work. What we have to do is we need to find a better way. We need to have a better process, a better system of tracking those visas that are issued. We also need to have a more thorough yet expedited way of approving or disapproving those visa applications. And I know that many farmers, not only here in Georgia, but many farmers applied for those H-2A visas, and right now a lot of them are being denied because there is an almost 100% shutdown in allowing Central American immigration here. And that is hurting our farmers. It is hurting those farmers who need that workforce. So, H-2A, we need to figure out a way to make it, to expedite it, make it more thorough, track it, and then allow those who do it the right way to come in here and help you.
All right. Animal welfare is another topic we want to address here, and especially in the 9th District, animal livestock, animal agriculture, food animal agriculture in particular, is something that is vital to the industry here, to the economy here, rather. Want to know about anti-farming groups, anti-agriculture groups, specifically anti-livestock groups and that type of thing. Do you support the laws that they push forward that position animal rights as the same as human rights? And do you see those as threats to Georgia's agriculture?
I think that with many things that are going on today, you have the extreme on this side and the extreme on that side. And most, not all, not even most, many of the people on either side refuse to listen and meet in the middle. And I think that that's where we need to be. This country was founded on coming together and tackling an issue as one, not separating into 2, 3, or 4 factions and fighting about it amongst ourselves and never reaching a meeting point. So what needs to happen is we need to bring everyone together, bring those, the factions, what have you, that are calling for an extreme, what we may consider an extreme to animal rights, and bring together the other side who those policies would most affect, and figure out how do we farm humanely. I am of the thought that every living thing feels. Every living thing feels. And we normally don't think about that until it's affecting us. And so I don't know how many of you have actual pets, but those of you who do you want to see your pet in pain? Do you want to see your pet suffer? If the answer is no, then we are in agreement, and that should take you a little bit further from that spur closer to the middle to be able to say, okay, let's at least talk about this. But not only that, not only try to understand what the other people are talking about, but also teach them what you know that they might not, right? Because a lot of the times when we are fighting against one another, it is about things that we don't truly understand. I have been a Washington Redskins fan since 1982. I can tell you the story about how 8-year-old me became a Washington Redskins fan, but that's not important. What's important is that I have been a Washington Redskins fan since 1982. Now, as a black man, I have also been in support of and fighting for equal justice and rights for black Americans. What I did not realize until about 10 years ago was that the Redskins logo and name was offensive to someone else. I had no clue until someone schooled me on it. Once they schooled me on it, I have been boycotting, not that my money really affects the Redskins, but I have been boycotting them for the last few years because, yes, I do agree. Now that I know better, I can do better. And so that's what we need in this country. We need people to start talking. Have that conversation. Have that tough conversation, right? There are a lot of tough conversations to be had. Black and white issues, indigenous people issues, farming issues. We need to have those discussions, and we need to come to the table ready to argue our case, but also to listen to everyone else's. Until we get that understanding, we will never be able to come to a place of agreement.
And starting that conversation is exactly why you're here today, and exactly why we put together this event, and we appreciate you being a part of it. We did take some questions from the audience, and Tripp is going to come and read you the questions here and allow you a chance to answer.
All right, first one, what are your thoughts on gun control?
Excellent question. All right, so gun control. When I raised my right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I did so knowing that I would be supporting every single amendment in the Constitution, including the Second Amendment. I have guns. I have a concealed carry license. I am not here to take anyone else's guns. I don't want anyone taking mine. However, every other amendment has clauses that regulate those amendments, except the Second Amendment. Although in the Second Amendment itself, it says that it must be well regulated. And we see with all of the gun violence in our inner cities, all of the gun violence with our white nationalists and Nazi groups, all of the gun violence everywhere, we see that a lot of times the people who are carrying out these disastrous acts never should have had a weapon in the first place. Maybe they had a mental health issue. Maybe they had a past violent issues involving guns. It is a very, very tight rope that we have to walk, because while I do not want to infringe on anybody's right, whether it's the First, Second, Fifth, whatever amendment it is, I don't want to infringe on anyone's right. However, once someone's exercise of one right prevents someone else's exercise of another right, like say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's when we need to be involved, and we need to have controls, regulations in place as the Second Amendment prescribes to ensure that we can legally and constitutionally prevent those who show us that they are not mature enough and law-abiding enough to own and carry weapons, not to do so. We do so with everything else. If you have enough tickets, parking tickets, or moving violations, you don't pay those tickets, or you're caught super speeding, you lose your license, right? You lose your privilege to operate that vehicle. It should be the same thing with everything else, including guns. I had the fortune of being in the military, being trained to not only handle the firepower of a weapon, but to have a healthy fear and respect of all weapons. Not everyone gets that training. So one thing we can do is start with the training of everyone who wants to own a weapon, but also have guidelines in place so that when we are shown that you are not law-abiding enough to handle that weapon in a responsible manner, you cannot have that weapon anymore.
All right. Would you support the expansion of the Clean Water Act to every waterway in the U.S.?
Will I support the Clean Water Act to every waterway in the U.S.? Offhand, I will say yes. I have not studied that act, so I don't know if there are any clauses or anything else that I would not agree with. But right off the bat, absolutely. We have to have clean water in every area of the United States. And we can't only talk about Gainesville or Atlanta or Athens. We need to be talking about Martin and Lula and up in Raven County, all of the places where we are forgotten a lot of times. We need to make sure that rural America is not forgotten. We need to make sure, I'm going on to something else here, but we need to make sure that not only water, clean water is available everywhere, but broadband. How many of us have issues with rural broadband? Not only does it need to stretch out to every single area in the 9th District, but it needs to be offered as a utility. It needs to be a must, just like your water, your electric, your gas. Rural broadband, and we see it now with COVID-19, where people are not able to go to work. People are not able to go to school. They need high-speed, reliable broadband in order to communicate with the world. Farmers, if you are trading nationally or internationally, you have to be able to communicate immediately in this world. If you're not able to do so, you're going to fall behind your competitors, and we cannot have that, not in the 9th District.